Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Barry Erickson, and I'm Community Engagement Coordinator here at Wheaton Public Library. ACES stands for Aging and Caregiving Engagement and Support. With this program series, we are creating a consolidated source of reliable local information for our community seniors. And tonight we will focus on valuable volunteering opportunities. Giving DuPage proudly serves as the DuPage County Volunteer Center with a mission to promote giving and volunteering countywide. Their role is to connect people who want to do some good and help in our community to the places and organizations that need their support. In addition to inspiring and mobilizing volunteers, Giving DuPage provides capacity building, nonprofit resources, and training. We are going to learn how to access their network of over 400 local nonprofit organizations and hundreds of faith and community groups, municipalities, colleges, and universities. With us, we have two of their staff members. Shefali Trivedi is the organization's executive director, and also Kyle Bergfors is their communication specialist, and they're both on hand to give us all the information that we need. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'll turn the screen over to you.
Thank you so much, Barry. We are excited to see you here today, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm always inspired by the fact that there are people who spend their private time to learn more about volunteering in their local community, and so we're thrilled to share just a little bit of information. And believe me, I'm already coming in with the understanding that all of you have been wonderful volunteers in the community at some point in your life. And so we really appreciate you wanting to just learn a little bit more. As Barry said, I'm the executive director of Giving DuPage. We are the DuPage County Volunteer Center. And some of you may not have even known that you have a volunteer center. So we'll share a little bit more about what we do at the end. But here's what we're going to be covering today. We'll start with just a little bit of a volunteerism snapshot. We'll talk about how the pandemic really changed volunteerism. Obviously, we kind of can imagine it would have, right? But we'll try to quantify what kind of happened in the early 6 months to a year of the pandemic, the early time of the pandemic, what happened with volunteerism. We'll also try to quantify how many people are volunteering in the US and Illinois, and what is our local volunteer need. We'll move on then to sharing some volunteering data, which I think is probably the new part about talking about volunteerism. And so we'll talk a little bit about that and sort of all the benefits of volunteering. Again, I think most of you are absolutely aware of the benefits of volunteering. The part that's new is how much data there is around it now, which is excellent. And then because we're still sort of in this space of some people wanting to volunteer in person and some people not feeling comfortable doing so, how can we talk about virtual volunteering or other safe volunteering ideas? And we hope to just inspire you with some of those thoughts. And then we'll close with just a few minutes about all the things that Giving DuPage does to serve our community and support the local nonprofit organizations and mobilize volunteers. So as promised, I'll kind of just talk to you about what happened in the first few 6 months of the early time of the pandemic. How did it impact nonprofit organizations and volunteering in general? And so Volunteer Match is another online volunteer website, and they did a study and they surveyed nonprofit organizations across the country. And as you can imagine, the report back that those nonprofit organizations gave, how concerned are the nonprofit organizations for their viability? Overwhelming majority, over 75%, said that they were very concerned, and they were just very concerned about everything, about volunteers leaving the organization, about funding, about just survivability and sustainability of their organization. And I think those concerns still have not been completely made calm yet. So I don't know if this is still at 75% because this data is back from 2022, but certainly I know that there are still many concerns in the nonprofit community. How did the early time of the pandemic affect volunteer engagement in general with the nonprofit organizations that they surveyed. Well, again, as you can expect, the vast majority, almost 70%, saw heavy cancellations, and then another 25% or so saw some cancellations. If you combine those two, you're basically saying the majority or almost all of the nonprofit organizations that were surveyed were seeing some or heavy cancellations. That's it really was a precipitous drop in volunteering, understandably, because people couldn't volunteer in person. But I'll tell you how that's affected volunteering in general now, into like third year of pandemic. The obvious barriers in those early months that people had were, hey, let's make sure that we're following regulations and recommendations. There was obviously fear about being exposed to illness. There was probably, I want to make sure that people can see the screen okay. If you want us to make it bigger, please drop that in the chat and I will definitely try to do that. I want to make the presentation visible to everybody. Also, we saw, there was fear of exposing the illness to others, exposing the virus to others. People had concerns around money or just, hey, I'm not clear how I can give of my time. There were a lot of reasons that came in as barriers to volunteering. And then, what did that do with the nonprofit organizations? How did they respond? How did they have to change their volunteer efforts to recruit volunteers? Well, there were still some people who said, hey, I want to volunteer in person and I can still come in person. And you saw some of that with our local community organizations. And then there were a lot of people who said, can I help virtually? And I know for sure that we as the Volunteer Center got so many phone calls. Hey, I really can't volunteer in person because I'm immunocompromised or I'm a senior citizen, but is there anything I can do from home? And we got so many calls about that. There was such an outpouring of support, despite the fact that people couldn't volunteer in person. There was no shortage of people wanting to do something. I mean, we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of phone calls and emails. And that just, in the face of all of the despair of a virus emerging in our community, I can't tell you how much hope that gave me personally, just to think about the community's response to wanting to help. That was amazing. And then, kind of where are things, as we look and think about this, I just want to share one thing with you, and you'll see some of the data later on, but volunteerism has not come back in the same robust way that it existed in pre-pandemic times. So I think it's going to take, because there's an entire generation, let's be honest, many of you who are participating today are senior citizens, and the truth is that many seniors volunteer. And when the pandemic happened, many seniors stopped volunteering. We have not replaced the entire base of volunteers in this country. And I believe it will take more than 5 years and up to 10 years to really rebuild volunteer hours and forces in the same way that it was there before the pandemic. So I just wanted to share that with you. It is a serious concern that I am having as the executive director of Giving DuPage, because I'm thinking about countywide, how can we mobilize volunteers again? How can we replace the people who never went back to volunteering in the same way? So I just wanted to put that out there. I want to then now move on to sort of quantifying, what does volunteerism look like in the US and in our state? This is data from 2019. It is encouraging. And by the way, let me just put one important caveat on this important data, that I don't really know how we can properly measure volunteering, and especially what we call like informal volunteering. Sometimes we help a neighbor and we give a ride to them to their doctor's office, or sometimes we help someone that we met in our faith organization, our church or our temple or our mosque, and we help people or we volunteer there. I don't know of any national survey that happens around volunteerism. I mean, they're capturing data to be sure, And I've included the source in the slide if you want to get to some of the data. But also, it's just hard to quantify how many people are giving hours. You know, how can we really quantify that? But this gives you some sense of it. About 30% of Americans are volunteering today. That means 77 million volunteers, about 5 billion hours served, and a value, if you translated that to some sort of dollar value, it translates to about $147 billion. In Illinois, it's on par with the US. 28% of Illinoisans are volunteering. That's 2.8 million Illinois volunteers, about 26 hours per resident every year. 206 million hours served, 4.9 billion in a dollar value. I think it's important to quantify. We definitely are generous, but I think we can be even more generous. But that's me. I'm in the volunteerism business. So of course I want more people to volunteer. So I have a personal bias towards that. But that just gives you an idea. I'd like to shift focus now to talk about what is the local volunteer need. So exactly how many people are volunteering in DuPage County, or let's get a sense of that. So first, I'd like to just start by telling you, which again, I'm not sure that everyone knows, but there are over 3,500 nonprofit organizations in DuPage County alone, 3,500 plus. So first, that's a huge number to wrap your head around. Now, some of those include like political groups or after school clubs, or, you know, some sort of, you know, smaller community group, or maybe a faith related charity. Even if you took those groups out and you focused on the organizations that you think of often, like a food pantry or an arts organization, how many volunteers are those folks, you know, how many volunteers are helping those organizations, those nonprofit organizations? So again, 3,500 nonprofit organizations across DuPage County. When we, Giving DuPage, did a volunteer impact report back in 2016 to 2017, we surveyed our nonprofit partners to ask them, how many volunteers do you use and how many hours do those lovely people give? It's the first DuPage specific report on volunteerism. Only 108 organizations gave us a response back. So 108 organizations of 3,500 plus. So we asked them two main questions. Again, how many volunteers did you utilize in the course, or how many volunteers gave their time in the course of a year, and how many hours did those lovely people donate to your cause? And the first statistic, and this is again going back pre-pandemic, but almost 70,000 volunteers donated their time to 108 local organizations in 1 year. Then we asked how many hours, and those lovely folks gave 1.5 million hours of their time, again, in the course of 1 year. If we were to translate that to a dollar value, it's 38 million plus dollars in a value of time served. The point we want to focus on is when we talk about volunteer need, and remember, that was just data for 108 organizations, right? Local organizations. When we talk about that data, what I like to always remind people is, let's say, like since the pandemic, we lost a third of the volunteers and they haven't come back. What happens to those organizations? Alternatively, what happens if we across the county doubled the number of volunteers? So instead of 70,000, what if there were 140,000 volunteers that gave their time in the course of a year? What would that do for those nonprofit organizations and their cause and their mission? How much more help could we be giving them to actually commit to their mission and their work and their programs every year? So I always like to talk about the local volunteer need and bring it to local, because it makes a big difference to the nonprofit organizations locally if you volunteer or if you don't, or if their volunteer base goes down or goes away or increases. It'll make a big difference in the work that they do in their programs. I'm gonna I promise. So we kind of talked about the snapshot so far, right? Like what happened during the pandemic. That was just the snapshot. We talked about the US numbers, the Illinois numbers, and what is our local volunteer need. Before I talk about sort of all the why should people volunteer reasons, and all the benefits of volunteering, I will go ahead and take a pause and see if there are any questions in the chat or in the, Barry, if you'll let me know, feel free to pop in.
Yeah, I don't have any questions in the Q&A right now, but I'm just wondering if you've seen some bounce back in numbers since, people may have felt a little bit more comfortable volunteering maybe in this past year than in 2020.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I will have a slide that kind of shows you, at least from our own numbers, our Giving to Page numbers. We have not seen, we personally, as the volunteer center where we're making these connections, we have not seen the bounce back. Maybe this year we'll see a little bit of a bounce back. However, I want to be also clear, there are certain nonprofit organizations, like for example, food pantries who had to stay open, right? Or DuPage Pads, which is like a, homeless, providing housing and support for those who are homeless or experiencing housing instability. Some organizations really saw like a spike in volunteer support because they needed more volunteers than ever before just to respond. The vast majority, so when I talk about the vast majority of organizations, though, definitely some of them are not even back open to be fully operational to receive volunteers. Some of them have changed what volunteering looks like for their organization because they had to just really adjust completely. Some of them are seeing some volunteers come back, but by and large, if we were to look at the big picture, we still have not seen the kind of, again, numbers and levels. Now, I think we're seeing a slight increase in uptick, but it's not anywhere to the tune of making up the losses that we experienced the last couple of years.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll let you continue, but just a reminder to our attendees that you can pop open that Q&A to enter any questions that you have for Shefali. All right.
Sounds good. So I'm going to kind of talk about the why to volunteer. And again, by the way, I'm fully aware that these are not new earth-shattering things, but I think what is new is the data points that I will share with you. We all know that volunteering is great for our overall wellness. It's a healthy habit, especially during times of crisis. It really helps to build resilience. Volunteering creates confidence and can build self-esteem. It is very empowering to volunteer in your community. It instills a sense of local pride, and it really connects us to community. There is no easier way to feel connected to your community than volunteering somewhere in your community. And there are a lot of now health reasons to volunteer. It really keeps you active and engaged. It helps to counteract social anxiety and stress and anger. It is a true treatment for isolation. Again, I have some data to back that up. And it is a true prescription and treatment for depression and suicide prevention. I think, again, we all kind of had a sense that these things might be true, but I'm about to share some awesome numbers with you that will help reinforce that. So here's some health data. What's great is 15 years ago, a lot of this data wasn't even available, right? But I'll just take, for example, a couple of health groups like United Healthcare Group and Optum Institute. They actually studied like what is the impact of volunteering. 95% of the people they surveyed said volunteering improved their overall mood. Nearly the same amount said, hey, it enriched their life with a sense of purpose. 3 out of 4 or over 3 out of 4 said, hey, it helps to lower my stress levels. And the same number, 3 out of 4, said volunteering makes me feel healthier. These are real data points which we did not have 15 years ago. Really nice to know that there's an easy way to feel healthier right away, and that's by volunteering. Here's the other interesting thing. Robert Half, which is a huge, huge company, surveyed their US workers, and they found that 6 out of 10 of them that were taking part in any kind of philanthropic activity outside of work actually made them more effective at work, which is kind of remarkable. So what they were doing outside of work in terms of philanthropy was making them more effective at work. that is a data point that's hard to argue, especially with companies. Again, we'll have a little bit more information on that. I know that maybe many of you are not going to college, but you know somebody who's going to college. So I want to share with you just how critical volunteerism is to college and career. When there's a survey done with admissions officers, 264 of them, 58% of those officers agreed that community service, AKA volunteering, has a very positive impact on the student's acceptance to any college or university. More importantly, 53% of those admissions officers said that volunteerism was the tiebreaker with any two candidates applying to their school, any two equally qualified students applying to their school. That's pretty amazing. So for all of you who know someone applying to a college or university, please make sure they underscore all their volunteerism and service that they did in their community. Also, it makes a big difference in someone's career. Again, perhaps all of you you're in the lovely retirement phase of life, and I don't know, I can't see your faces, so I can't see who you are, but it's really important, volunteerism, when it comes to hiring. 41% of LinkedIn managers consider volunteer work equally as valuable as paid work experience. And once again, 20% of the hiring managers hired a candidate because of their volunteer experience. Again, this is data that we didn't have 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We just didn't have that data, real data to show why volunteering really matters. And then, of course, there's for the company itself, I participated in a Choose DuPage panel not I personally, I sat in the audience and listened to a panel of CEOs, and they continue to say over and over again that finding and retaining the best talent, recruiting the best people is the #1 issue they face. Well, part of the secret sauce to getting the best talent these days is, hey, you know what? You have to have a company that's involved in causes. Can you imagine that? When I was searching for my first real job, I know I might look young, but that was a long time ago, I promise. When I was searching for my first real job, I didn't even think about, hey, is the company involved with like social causes or nonprofit causes? But today, 50% of millennials say that, hey, they're influenced to take a job or not based on whether the company is involved with causes. And 87%, there was a survey done of 50,000 plus employees where companies could expect an 87% reduction in employees' probability to leave simply by increasing employee engagement, which included volunteerism. So again, it couldn't be more important for companies to really engage in civic activities through the workplace than before, because it's directly tied to finding the best talent for any company. I'll be sharing these slides. Oh, you can access the recording at any time. Sorry, I'm so used to sharing slides, but if you want a copy of the slide deck, I'm happy to send them to you too. You can email us at the end. Here's the data points that I was super blown away by. There's a study done with the Senior Corps program. The Senior Corps is one of the largest volunteerism programs in the country, run by the AmeriCorps arm of the government. And they did a survey of 1,200 seniors over 2 years. And the actual data that came from that was pretty remarkable. 84% reported improved or stable health after 2 years of service in the Senior Corps. And 32% who said they had good health at the beginning, they said they had improved health after 2 years. So Senior Corps volunteers were definitely feeling healthier. That was one big takeaway. The one that I'm more excited about is that Senior Corps volunteers are definitely less depressed and less isolated. 78% of those Senior Corps volunteers who had 5 or more symptoms of depression at the beginning of the study said they felt less depressed after 2 years. And 88% who described a lack of companionship said they felt a decrease in isolation after 2 years. Those are remarkable data points. And we all could have imagined that could be true. We could have thought, yeah, that sounds right, that tracks right. But to have real data to back that up is pretty remarkable. And I think as our populations continue to age, and especially the last few years when all of us felt more isolated and maybe a little depressed given the state of affairs, I think for our seniors to feel this way through volunteerism, that's pretty amazing. There's a connection. I won't dive too deep into it, but there's a connection between volunteering and emotional intelligence. I'm sure many of you have been hearing about emotional intelligence. And so there's a real connection that volunteering can actually increase or strengthen emotional intelligence skills. Those are the skills that kind of affect our motivation, our social skills, our self-awareness, our self-regulation, our empathy, our ability to empathize. So there's a real connection between volunteering and increasing your emotional intelligence skills. There also happens to show that, by the way, I think these are the most important reasons to volunteer. It feels good to do good, right? It gives you a sense of purpose. You could possibly find a future career, a future direction. I think the biggest reason why people volunteer is because you can, so we do. And I think that's pretty great. Some people volunteering ends up being a real path to their purpose in life too. And here's the other data point that we never knew about before. There's a deep neural connection between gratitude and giving. They share the same neural pathway in the brain. It's remarkable that they can prove that, but it's really true. So grateful people on average give 20% more time and money. And when we're grateful, our brains become more charitable. They share the same neurons in the brain. So of course that there's a link there, right? So those are so many reasons, right, why people are volunteering. You can make friends and connections. You can learn about great causes and the amazing work being done in your community. You're creating positive, healthy habits. You're being a part of something bigger than yourself. It's a sense of pride and belonging in our DuPage community. You're building your empathy and strengthening your emotional intelligence, sharing your gifts and talents and experiences and skills for a great cause, and you can get connected to feelings of gratitude. These are all the obvious benefits, but I've now just shared with you real data points around volunteerism. Again, I'm going to just take a quick pause there before I talk about, what are the reasons. So now that we talked about, geez, these are all the reasons why people should volunteer. So why aren't people volunteering? So I'll take a quick pause. Are there any questions happening in the chat? I don't see anything, Barry. I think we're good, right?
No, there aren't any questions, but boy, you've certainly given us lots of reasons to want to pursue this, especially with all of the isolation that we've been feeling. And there's so many great causes out there. So let's move on and find out how to get involved.
Awesome, perfect. So I'll just share with you the top 2 reasons why people don't volunteer. The first one is, hey, guess what? I didn't know you needed volunteers. If the organizations are not asking for volunteer support, people don't know we need it, right? So are the organizations, or are all of us talking about service with our family, our friends, our neighbors, our house of worship, our community groups, our employers? If we're not, we ought to share how much of a local need there is, right? But the second reason why people don't really volunteer is that, hey, I want to give back, but I don't know where to get started, or where do I look? How do I get started? Because Barry is super passionate about helping veterans causes and pet charities, and Kyle really wants to help seniors and kids with disabilities or whatever. We all have a different idea in mind. And so that's where Giving DuPage comes in. We actually have a solution, and we refer to that solution as our volunteer portal. I'm going to actually take you to the volunteer portal site right in 1 second, but I just want to give you a sense of like, hey, this is why Giving DuPage got started. Our mission, we started as the volunteer center at the county. Like there was somebody sitting at a desk with a phone hotline back in the day when there was a Rolodex, and we were kind of a volunteer referral desk. Formally became Giving DuPage in 2001 when 2 local philanthropists decided that we needed a connector agency to connect people to connect to their cause that mattered to them, or the nonprofit that mattered to them. So that's what we do. That's our primary role, is to connect volunteers and donors with local opportunities to give back. We really want to connect your purpose to a local cause for lasting community impact. So I will share with you the URL, and I'm going to take you there. But we have a website that is dedicated only to volunteering in DuPage County. givingtopage.org/volunteer. If you go www.givingtopage.org/volunteer, you will go straight to our volunteer portal website. It is used by 400 nonprofit organizations with over 900 volunteer opportunities. And I'm going to go ahead and show you those and show you that right now. So let me go ahead and just pull that up. Can you guys let me confirm for me? Kyle, give me a thumbs up. Can you see the portal?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Okay, great. Awesome. So if you were to go to our, this is the main website that we have at Giving to Page. This is our main website, givingtopage.org. On every page of our website, in the top right corner, you will see this icon that says Volunteer Search Portal. If you were to click on that icon or image, so right here in the top right corner, if you were to click on that, it will take you straight to this website, which is our volunteer portal website. This is the website that's dedicated to volunteering countywide. At the website, you will see a general section of all the opportunities. You will be able to search those opportunities, but there are also if you want to just look at the nonprofit events that are coming up, you can click on that. If you want to just search the nonprofit organizations, and I'm on the left-hand side with the navigation. I'm also going to kind of zoom in a little bit because I'm only at 90%, so that might help a little bit here. So the organizations are on the left-hand side. We created a page right when the pandemic happened about urgent volunteer needs. I'll show you that page in a second. There's nonprofit jobs and also in-kind donation needs and also court-mandated volunteers. So sometimes people have, an oopsie in life and they need to do some court-mandated service hours. So we refer them to some organizations there. So when you first land on this page, you'll see that, you'll see things that have like a bunch of listings that are listed here. By the way, again, over 895, maybe 900 plus opportunities. And you can see like this one is a job and this one is a job, but this one is some sort of education related position or volunteer need. Here's the volunteer need for transporting food donations. Here's another food pantry need that's listed. So there's a lot of ways to search this site. You can search right up here by saying search by phrase. I'll show you the filters in a second. Let me just I'm going to click on this need from People's Resource Center. So, hey, they say we need help transporting food donations for a pantry. And then they kind of give you a little description, a few of the details. It's not wheelchair accessible and volunteers should be between 8 and 118, pretty good range. And then you can actually click on the organization's logo and name on the right side, and that will take you straight to their organization page, which has their contact info. But I want to show you that if you want to respond electronically, here's how you would respond. You hit the respond button, and what the portal prompts you to do is it prompts you to either sign up with a user account or log in with your existing user account. And this is just a username password thing, and we don't share your data with anybody ever. But it's great to sign up with a user account because then you can choose to become a fan of any organization. You can choose to receive alerts from those organizations you become fans with. It's just nice to respond electronically. So if you're logged in and you're interested in this, you can just hit the respond button. And there's also an opportunity to hit share where you can share on social networks right away if you want to. Or you can just copy the link and you can share the link on email with somebody if you want to. So there's lots of ways to search this, but let's say you want to go back to the opportunities and let's say you want to filter your search because you're not going to click 900 different opportunities. So you can filter your search by distance from a zip code. You might live in Wheaton and you want to search within 5 miles of 60187. You might want to search for only outdoor volunteering opportunities while it's still nice out right now. And you might feel a little safer being outdoors than indoors. You can search for team opportunities and you can say, yep, I want to look for opportunities that are accepting teams, and you search on that. Or you can even search on, I can filter out that search and I can say, hey, I want to search for things that are wheelchair accessible. Whatever it is, there's ways to search. I want to search for something that's family friendly. So you search, and let's say you see these opportunities. So I'm just going to pick up, here's a good one, Naperville Park District. This is pretty obvious. They need someone to help with litter. That's pretty good. I can do that with my nieces and nephews. What if I want to be a garden plot helper? Well, this is pretty great if you're someone who has a green thumb and particularly gifted at gardening. I am not. I managed to kill everything that I try to grow. Not great, but I love getting goods from gardens all the time. So anyway, Naperville Park District is looking for help with that. Or I'll pick another one. I want to pick something different. Oh, look, here we go. DuPage Care Center has their fall festival, and they have over 100 volunteer opportunities happen. So that's a great way to do something social and fun. It's happening on September 27th, and it's happening from 10 to 4. They need over 100 volunteers. It's a great way to connect and give back, right? And there's probably lots of different kinds of jobs too happening at the fall festival. So that's just some of the kinds of varieties. And let's say I don't want to see the ones where accepting teams, but let's say I want to just search for like education opportunities. So I just searched on the keyword education, and then it pulls up all the opportunities that have the word education in it. So it could be something like the chief development officer, it could be a program director, it could be any kind of thing. I'm going to go to page 3. I'm just going to skip ahead and see what they have. Oh, look, there's a Spanish translator. So if somebody on this call is good at Spanish, these folks need your help as a volunteer. They could really use your help. So they are looking for help with translation. You get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can search organizations. So I'll just take 360. Actually, I'll take the pet shelter. I'll take a dot pet shelter. So here's the dot pet shelter, and they share a little bit. Every organization shares a little bit about what they do, who they are, and what they do. And then they list their volunteer opportunities. Their contact information is there. So if you don't want to create a username and password and you would rather contact the organization directly, you just go to their organization page and you'll have their information. Sometimes they share pictures, sometimes they share videos, and they definitely have links to their website and some of their social channels as well. So this is great. And again, if you, let's say you really believe in pets and you know 4 people like in your family who love pets as much as you do, well, you can share the organization too. Once again, you can just share right on social networks. I want to just quickly show you the events tab. It shows you different types of events that are happening, like summer day camp or neighborhood food pantries is having an open house for volunteers, which is great. Hey, there's an ice cream social happening. Who's this for? Oh, the DuPage County Area Project. So it's a great way to have a little fun, fundraiser and eat some ice cream, which I love. I like that a lot. So you can check out events from the nonprofit organizations. And this tab is, I mean, we all know, right? Everybody is hiring. Everybody still is looking for people to fill jobs. So if you know someone who wants a position, and these are all paid jobs, if they want a part-time position or a full-time position, this is a way to search all of those. If you know somebody who really wants to work at a nonprofit organization, this is a good way to search. We have, golly, I think I'm going to say probably about 100 plus jobs posted. Would you say that's right, Kyle? At least 100?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is just sort of a quick, I'll show you the urgent needs page we created right when the pandemic happened. I think some of these things are still true, but maybe some of that urgency is feeling less, but these organizations are still accepting these donations and desperate for them. And also the court mandated page, you can feel free to share that with anybody that might have some court mandated community service hours to complete. But this is our volunteer portal. So I hope that this is a resource that you didn't know about before and that you will share with others, because we are really trying to get people to know about the volunteer opportunities. And there's a great variety of volunteer opportunities. I'm back in my presentation. I think you guys can see it. Somebody just let me know if you can see the volunteer or see the presentation again. Can you see it, Barry?
Yes, we're seeing the slides.
Okay, great. So I'm going to skip past these. I always have a backup of all the slides because in case something happens in technology, I try to have the slides already there. But you can see, you can use your skills You can use your gifts if you're a singer, an artist, a photographer. You can have some fun and do a lot of social volunteering. I promise you, there used to be a volunteer need called the cookie manager. It wasn't how many people could eat as many cookies as you want. It was a cookie manager with the Girl Scouts. You get to be a part of their Girl Scouts cookie selling team. Frosty Fest 5K volunteers or Harvest Fest volunteers. There's a great variety of ways to volunteer and give back and use your experience and your skills and your gifts and have a good time at the same time all at once. Again, I'm going to I showed you all these things, so I'm going to show you. Oh, I also let me just go back real quick. I want to show you on the organizations. The one important thing I didn't show you is on the organizations, you can also filter your search by cause and distance. So if you want to filter your search by cause, and let's say you want to help those who are serving disabilities and special needs, you can see all the organizations that are serving disabilities and special needs. Let's say you want to find out who they are, and that's the first filter, but you also want to say, I want within 5 miles of 60187. Who are all those organizations serving disabilities and special needs? Well, Clearwoods Academy and Day One Pact and Dive Hard and Donka, and there's a lot, right? So you get a sense of who are all the organizations that are serving any kind of cause. So I forgot to show you those searching things. I'm glad I went back to that. So I'm back in my presentation now. I know you might be getting a little whiplash, and I promise I'm almost done. I've got just a few more slides coming up at the end. I showed you all these, gave you an idea. See, I told you it was a real position at one point, service area cookie manager. Here's an important thing. This is an online website, right? So how can people find out about us? Well, we're really active on social media. Kyle, every single week, is posting straight from the volunteer portal to our Facebook page, to our Twitter page, on our LinkedIn, on our Instagram. I'm sure all of you are huge Instagrammers and TikTokers. We're not on TikTok yet, but really on Facebook, if you follow us, you can just see our feed every single week and just share a couple of volunteer opportunities with people. That's really great. At least half of our pages, I think it's like 90% of our posts are really right from the portal and about ways that you can give back and connect to local nonprofit organizations. And then I just want to show you, I know, Barry, you asked about the numbers, so I just want to give you a sense of numbers. So in 2019, we connected, actually the true number was we connected over 2,000, I'm just trying to grab this data point here, over 2,000 volunteers. It says 1996, but it was over 2,000 volunteers. That's over 5 volunteers every single day that we were connecting through our website. In 2020, March of 2020 is when we all kind of went into full pandemic mode, right? In that first year, we still connected just almost 1,800 volunteers. We saw a drop, right? That's 200 less volunteers we connected from the year before. But 2021, this is where we saw the big drop. Big drop, the effect of the pandemic. Year 2, 2021, we were down to only connecting just over 1,200 volunteers. So you can see the big difference between 2,000 volunteers in 2019 and just 1,200 last year. This year, I would be thrilled if we could just connect 1,500 people at the portal or get 1,500 people signed up at the portal. It is a big drop that we had last year. And so when I say that countywide, we have just not seen people using our website and connecting to volunteers in the same way that we did before, that's just the truth. That's just where we're at. And I think it's going to take a long time for us to kind of build back up to where we were. I will be done in less than 5 minutes, but I just want to, and I'm not going to go through every single one of these slides, but I want to share with you, there are many ways to give back virtually, right? Maybe you're somebody who's great at yoga, so you can host an outdoor yoga class, or you're good at arts and writing, you can help that way virtually. Maybe you're great at technology. Maybe you're a videographer, photographer, editor. There are ways to virtually volunteer and also help safely. I'm giving you just a variety of ideas right now. There's a ton of ideas about to come your way. And so you don't have to think about all of them, but just, it's more, I'm doing it for food for thought. So if you're someone who knows sign language, that's a huge need that still happens for volunteer need. There's virtual scout troop leaders, believe it or not, or a virtual online tutor. There's a lot of people doing that. You can answer phones virtually. That's a need that still exists for nonprofit organizations, and they would be happy to have you help them. If you have graphics design skills or you're great with technology, and some of you might be, I don't know, a lot of people surprise me with how how deftly they do tech and platforms and software. So if that's your gift, please consider supporting nonprofit organizations. They need that all the time, tech support of any kind or any design support or web editing. This is the time to serve on a committee that really matters to you, or serve on the board of a local charity. Nonprofits are seeing a lot of board turnover in the last couple of years, again, for obvious reasons. So this is the time, if you want to serve on a board, to really step up and do that. This is a way to give for real. There's even ways to do something like remote adoption application volunteers wanted. This is with a pet charity, and they need to find homes for forever homes for hundreds and hundreds of dogs and cats, but they need help with the application review. This is something you can do remotely from home easily. You can also, if you have the gift of gab and you are a good speaker, a lot of nonprofit organizations are looking for outreach volunteer speakers. So that's something that you could consider doing. And some of them have even shifted to offering that outreach virtually. You could decide to help a nonprofit organization with a thank you letter writing campaign or a phone call campaign for a local charity. They can give you the script and you just execute on the thank you. You can start a positive messaging campaign and share positive quotes and put them around town. These are things that are real things that you don't even need to be involved with a nonprofit organizations to share positive notes. What if you're really good at research and you're really good at online research? Can you call a nonprofit who needs some support with researching something in their cause-related area? I bet that's something that you can help with. This is an easy one. If you're affiliated with a house of worship or a company or an organization, we are still in the middle of a national blood supply shortage. You can organize a blood drive. This is a huge way to help right now. And definitely, I think we're recovering these a little bit. A lot of the blood banks had to cancel their blood drives, right? Because everyone went to remote. The world went to remote. So they still are short on the blood supply. So please consider organizing a blood drive. Lots of outdoor ways to volunteer. You can help with the forest preserve or adopt a highway. You can help with some landscaping. You can help with raking. You can help with volunteering at a COVID test site. They're still looking for those. And definitely many of our pantries are looking for food recovery drivers for sure. I found a bunch of things across the country, not just in DuPage, where you can volunteer virtually. I am not going to talk about every single one of these, but I will read them out loud. United Nations is looking for volunteers. The Smithsonian is looking for digital volunteers. The Smithsonian Institution, who wouldn't want to volunteer for them, right? Amnesty International is looking for virtual decoders. There are opportunities where you can help a crisis text line, or even a phone line. There are opportunities with a platform called Zooniverse, where people are powering the research that would be possible all through online volunteering, right? We're talking about classifying systems or transcribing manuscripts of Shakespeare or identifying endangered animals, lots of different things they do. Project Gutenberg was actually something that you can volunteer online. Oops, sorry. It's not letting me undo that. Okay. This is a virtual volunteering effort that started it all because they have a huge digital library. And so they need help transcribing books or proofreading other people's work. OpenStreetMap is another editable map that's looking for online volunteers to contribute to its geographical database. Mozilla and Firefox are looking for support with their browsers. You don't have to be a guru to even know what that means. You can just be an online volunteer and help. You know those TED Talks we all like to listen to? Well, they're looking for translators, a global community of volunteers who will subtitle a lot of TED Talks. Really cool mobile app called Be My Eyes for people connecting people who are blind and with low vision, individuals with sighted volunteers from all over the world through a video call. That's pretty great. And then it goes on. There's hotlines for, for the RAIN network, for the Trevor Project. There's recording audio versions of public domain books, producing free manuals, and being a volunteer, creating those manuals in different languages. Again, lots of online work that you can do. But here's my favorite idea, and it's super easy, and it really matters, and it's always overlooked. Advocacy. Advocacy is a real way to make a difference. Using your voice to create awareness for a nonprofit organization or a program that matters to you. How do you do that? Well, you can just send an email to your family and friends and say, hey, I learned about this charity, or I used to volunteer at this charity. Please consider doing that, right? You become an advocate. What if you write a monthly newsletter for your school or your house of worship or whatever? You can just say, let's adopt a charity every month. What if you posted just one post every week on Facebook about your favorite cause? What if you shared photos and posted photos from a past volunteer experience and shared your favorite moment about volunteering? Or educating people about the important volunteers or the volunteer need in DuPage County, sharing the resources like the portal. These are advocacy really matters, and every nonprofit will tell you, I wish more people knew about us. And that's exactly what advocacy is about. So you just help spread the word and use your voice to create awareness. That's a huge way. I'm going to pause there, and I just want to tell you, share like the last few slides on a little bit more about what Giving DuPage does in its entirety. And I don't want to pause for questions because I'm going to save them all at the end here, but we're almost done. So a little bit about our programs. First, we have a board matching program. So it's just like the portal, but we actually have the individual candidate who wants to sit on a board apply. And then the nonprofit organization also has an application, and we match them up based on the skills and experience of the board candidate and the nonprofit and what they're looking for. So that's one program that we have. You obviously learned about the volunteer portal. This is another great event that we have every spring called Giving DuPage Days. Some of you may have heard about it. It's a multi-charity virtual, so all online fundraiser to support over 95 charities. This past spring was 95 charities. In the first year, it was like 103 charities. And this past year, over 2,700 donors helped us to raise over $373,000 for the 95 charities. These are unrestricted funds for charities. This event happens every spring. So if you're interested, just find us on social or use our link here. You can certainly go to givingdupageday.org. That's a separate website. So I just want to tell you about that event. We have a super cool event called Volapalooza. It's coming soon. It's our countywide volunteer recognition event. Volapalooza is not a rock concert for volunteers, but it does feel like an awesome celebration. And it happens, we honor every single volunteer. We're back in person this year, so we're super excited. If you know a volunteer or if you are affiliated with a nonprofit organization, please tell them about it, or even a company or your house of worship. If you have volunteers you want to honor and recognize, this is a great way we're going to be honoring over 150 to 200 volunteers at this year's Volapalooza. We do a lot of nonprofit training. One is Executive Director Network, where we have training and best practices, a networking group for executive directors, which is sort of the CEO position of a nonprofit organization. We also have a partnership with NIU Center for Nonprofit and NGO Studies. So if you know of a nonprofit who wants to do some training, all the classes are really affordable at like $22 per class. They're 2-hour online classes. Over 1,000 nonprofit professionals have participated in these classes since we started this program. We also host a conference. I don't know if we're going to host it this year. We'll see how things are going, but we might host some version of a workshop. We may not do a full-blown conference, but we'll see how it goes. And we have a couple of other programs. We've partnered with the higher ed institutions countywide, 12 different higher ed institutions, student, staff, faculty, to enhance community efforts. It's a student-led countywide collaboration to try to address the DuPage needs through service. And a similar council with the faith groups. We haven't met with those guys in a long time because they're just, faith organizations are scrambling just as much as the rest of us. And so we're just trying to, again, form a nexus of, form a group of faith faith leaders countywide who are interested in seeing where faith and service intersect and how can they provide service leadership countywide. I will share these 3 resources with you. It's important for you to know them if you've never known about them before. One of them is ours, but if you've never heard about Impact DuPage, that's how you can learn about the issues that are impacting DuPage County with a lot of data and resources. So if you want to learn about what are the issues affecting the wellness of DuPage County, whether it's transportation or health and mental health or housing instability or hunger, you can see them. They prioritize and rank them. DuPageCris.org is a website like ours, but for people who need help. So if you know someone in crisis or someone who needs help or someone who needs resources that are offered by nonprofit organizations, you go to DuPageCris.org. And obviously, if you want to help, you come to givingdupage.org/volunteer. So again, Impact DuPage, if you want to learn about what the issues are, if you know someone who needs help and needs resources, DuPageCris.org. And if you are someone who wants to help, you visit our portal website. I will tell you that there is a state portal website. This is that link. And if you want to know about other volunteer centers in Illinois, this is that link. So again, if you just search even Serve Illinois on Google, it'll pop up their website and you can get access to their volunteering in the state. And also you can get access to the different volunteer centers throughout the state. These are all the service days that you can be involved with. I think many of you know MLK Day of Service. There's National Volunteer Week. There's Make a Difference Day in October. There's actually even a National Family Volunteer Day, so you can volunteer with your family. This is all the things that Giving DuPage does in the course of a year. Our portal, Giving DuPage Days, Fallapalooza, both the councils, our Executive Director Network, Board Match Program, and our nonprofit training programs. I've talked a lot and I would love to answer your questions. This is our contact info. I want to thank you for your time and attention. I went a little over than I wanted to, but I hope it was worth it. And then we're sharing a couple of quotes from 2 of the most amazing service leaders and compassionate leaders of our time, so who inspire us all the time. So enjoy reading them, and I'll take any questions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Folly. It was really great, especially to see that Giving DuPage website and the portal in action and see how it can be searched. Again, I'm going to give people just another minute or 2 to think about questions that they might want to ask. But I'm wondering about that. You mentioned there's a way to be a fan of a particular organization.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk a little bit about that and why somebody would choose to do that?
Sure, absolutely. So let's say I want to become a fan of Claire Woods Academy, which is a nonprofit organization based right in Wheaton, right? And I want to become a fan. So when you create a username and password, so when you sign on and you sign up, right, you can choose to become a fan. So the first thing it's going to do is say, hey, are you already signed up or not? When you sign up and you choose to become a fan, what that does is every time Claire Woods Academy adds a volunteer need, adds an in-kind donation need, an event or a job, you'll get an email notification automatically. So that's a way to avoid, you could just pick your 5 favorite organizations and then become a fan, and then you'll automatically get their information every time they update something. So that's kind of great. The system does it automatically, and that makes it way easier for you to respond then as well. So that's one of the big benefits of actually creating a username and password, a login account. And again, we don't do anything with your data. We don't share it. We don't sell it. We don't do any of that. The biggest thing you'll get is an email probably once a month from Kyle that's generated. You get a couple of emails from us where we're just promoting volunteer needs, right? So once a month in the portal, we do an e-bulletin, and 1 month we might highlight group volunteering, and another month we might highlight nonprofit jobs. And then we also, the same portal users get our monthly Community Cares digital newsletter where we highlight, Kyle again puts that together, highlighting a couple of volunteer needs and in-kind giving needs and ways to connect and give back. So that's the benefit of becoming a fan. I'd love to hear from anybody. Are you allowing any unmuting? I don't know if you are, but if not, I'd love to just find out, was this a beneficial presentation for you? Would you learn something new? If you want the slide information, you can certainly email me at giving. I can put that in the chat. Actually, I'll put our email address in the chat here, and I'll send
Right.
it out to everyone.
And just so everyone knows, I've collected a couple of those websites, particularly the website for the portal and the other ones that you mentioned as well. And so I have a list of those, and those are going to be going out to everyone who registered for the program. So you will be getting those in an email from me later tonight. If you happen to be watching the recording of this program and would like those list of websites and resources, you can just email me at ce@wheatonlibrary.org. That's CE for Community Engagement at wheatonlibrary.org, and I'd be happy to send out that list of resources to you. Shefali, we just want to leave up the Q&A for just another minute in case someone has a question. One thing that really intrigued me is your comment about how many boards have seen a lot of turnover. And I'm just thinking about the vast number of people on this call amongst our seniors in our community. There's so much experience and so much wisdom. I'm just
Yes.
thinking that would be a really great way for them to pick a favorite organization, a favorite charity, and just really dig in and get involved and provide all of that wisdom and experience that they have gained over their lives.
It's a real tangible way to make a big difference. And believe me when I tell you, nonprofit organizations are really looking for your advocacy on their board. So if you have the time to commit to being a board member, I really hope you'll do it. Are they allowed to put something in the chat? I know they have a Q&A. Can they put something in the chat or no?
I think so.
Okay.
Where
If
settings
you
are at.
can, I'd love to know if this was a beneficial program for you, or Barry, if you're willing to unmute everyone, if they can just chime in and let us know if they, I know sometimes typing in a little thing is hard to do if you're someone who, I happen to be a pretty fast typer, but if you're someone who does the single digit typing, that could be hard. So if you're willing to let folks unmute, I don't know if that's allowed.
Actually, since we're in webinar, that's
Mode.
not a functionality we have.
Got it.
But
Yeah.
I did just make sure that the chat is available for everybody, and we've got a couple people are putting in that it was certainly very interesting, and I know that we learned a lot. A lot of us weren't aware of the great need in our community, as well as this great way to find out and just curtail what it is that we're interested in, the hours, the time that we have, and how to be able to give back with that. So
That's
thank you
great.
so much. I don't see any other questions, so I think we can finish up tonight. Thank you so much for everyone that tuned in tonight and learned this fabulous information. Again, I'll be sending out additional resources and links in an email later tonight. If you're watching this recording, you can just ask for those by emailing me at ce@wheatonlibrary.org, and I'd be happy to send those out to you. But thanks so much to you, Shefali, and Kyle, you as well, for providing this program for us tonight. We'll get the recording up and make it available to everyone.
Thank you. It was our pleasure. Thank you so much for all of your support too, Barry. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great
Thank you.
night, everybody. Take care, stay healthy, and we hope to see you again soon. Good night.